Hello everybody, Mike here. I'm the creator of Dreamloop Cinema. This is the first behind the scenes video that I've done for the channel. I'm just going to take you behind the scenes specifically to show you the making of the latest video, which was this Soviet Star Wars Return of the Communists parody video that I put out last week. It was the third in the series. I've done 2 videos so far already. The first one was Soviet Star Wars here, which has so far done 100,000 views. Thank you for all the support, by the way, guys. I am still taken aback by the success of the channel over the past few months, and I'm still getting used to it. Thank you all for being here, comrades, and long may it continue. Long may the revolution continue. Anyway, I digress. That was the first one back in July. That was A New Hope, basically. And then I followed it up recently with The Empire Strikes Back, or as I called it, The Capitalist Strike Back. And yeah, that one got about 32,000 views, so clearly a reasonably popular theme for the channel. I know that a lot of you really rave over the Soviet Star Trek, and to be honest, those are my favourite ones to make. And do not worry, another one is in the works and will be coming soon. Well, I say soon, it depends on how long it takes to make, because it's going to be a fair bit longer than these ones. Anyway, what we're doing today, as I said, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of Soviet Star Wars Return of the Communists. This was the longest video on the channel to date, about 9 minutes. I wasn't sure if the longer format was going to take or not, but it seems to have gone down well so far, which is great to see. So I will just start by looking at the broader picture. This right here is the workflow that I adhere to. So I start with ideation, which is your concept, title, hook, whatever. Then I move on to scripting, voice generation, storyboarding, creating the visuals, animating the visuals, adding the music or music selection, then editing / assembly of the video itself in CapCut. So this is the project where after it was finished, I've got our image of Uncle Joe there. We won't get into the editing until later, but just to show you what it looks like at the end, this is it. So we've got our voiceover there, we've got our music here, and some extra narration down there, and then just all our clips on this part of the timeline here. As I said, the very first thing I start with is ideation, and for that I can use one of 2 tools, typically ChatGPT, or the one that I used for this particular video, one of my favourites, and that is Poppy. Poppy AI, if you don't know about it, is a really cool tool. I was first introduced to it earlier this year. You've got all these AIs here to choose from, and what you can do is you can attach multiple sources of videos or media of any description. It could be articles, it could be all kinds of things, and you can get it to analyze them or use them as inspiration for something new. I'm not even going to get into the amount of possibilities that exist for this kind of technology, because there are too many. What I specifically use them for is scripting that. So as you can see, these are videos from my channel. I've attached them all into this chat here, and anytime I do scripting or whatever it might be, I can get it to draw upon all of these videos for context, tone, anything. I'm just going to disconnect all these for now. So the way this looked when I did this particular video is I only attached the following, which were my first 2 Star Wars videos in the series. What that allows me to do is I can tell the AI we're doing a continuation of this series. Here's what we've done so far. So it can call upon the narrative tone, the format, and obviously it can have all the context of what's actually happened so far in the story, so it knows how to keep continuity. It blows me away, this tool. I love it. I do use ChatGPT as well, but Poppy is my go-to for longer stuff. I'll just show you how I started this process, and this is the process that I follow pretty strictly for any project. And what essentially happens is I tell it what I'm going for, then I explain what ideas I have. This is the key thing for me. You guys have picked up on this, you do compliment the scripts quite often. What sets them apart, in my opinion, is that I don't just use AI as a crutch. I use it like a creative tool. So I have ideas, and I tell the AI what my raw ideas are. Then I ask it for its ideas, and we brainstorm. Then we start scripting. So you can see what I did here. So I said, I'm working on a third part to my Soviet Star Wars series, see the attached material or reference on context return so we can maintain continuity. As you can see, the 2 parts in the series so far are joke heavy. I mentioned this because I want to maintain that. In this third part, we're going to mirror the plot of Return of the Jedi, but then pivot sharply to Luke becoming a Stalinist-style dictator who overthrows the Empire only to establish his own tyrannical order. And then I give it my ideas. So, my ideas, in no particular order: Admiral Akbar is purged in a brutal manner. He is boiled alive and Luke eats him, lobster style. Luke calls off the destruction of the Death Star and destroys the planet of Endor. With all his friends on the planet, who he now deems dangerous to the revolution. Instead of destroying the Prophet Stars, those were our Death Star stand-ins, that's what they were rebranded in this particular Soviet spin-off. He rebrands them to Re-Education Moons and orders the construction of more. Hofgrad is renamed Siberia, and a gulag system is established there. R2-D2 becomes his Beria-style enforcer, personally carrying out the liquidation of class traitors. In this script, Luke finally learns the art of actual combat. If you've watched the first 2 and the third part, you may recall that one of the jokes was that Luke kept getting taught the ways of Marxism instead of the Force, and it was proven to be absolutely useless in actually getting anything done. And seeks out training from Master Stalin, who can be on a ridiculous planet, maybe planet Stalingrad, and he gets taught the ways of violence in the name of revolution. Mon Mothma survives the destruction of the rebels on Endor and is purged by a ceremonial ice pick to the head. That idea never made the cut. I did actually have it in the script, but I deleted it. We'll get to that. Dyatlov from HBO's Chernobyl is revealed to be the chief engineer at the rebranded Re-Education Moon. I explained we're going to be playing on a recurring joke there, where he reassures the character, in this case Luke, the Death Star won't explode, it's physically impossible. But in this particular scene, we're going to subvert your expectations. Usually Dyatlov is proven immediately wrong, but in this scene, for once, he was right. And that was my idea, to subvert the narrative a little bit there. Kashyyyk is conquered and the Wookiees are enslaved. This was another idea that didn't make the final cut. In general, we can have a really dark purge sequence in the end. Ewoks genocide should be directly commented on. I think I got rid of that too. Then I say, these are the main ideas I have. The Dyatlov scene should be in the final payoff. I'm lacking any ideas for the first act at Jabba's palace, which was correct, but the meat of the script takes place later anyway. Do you have any ideas before we begin? And the first thing Poppy does is it compliments me on the tone of the script and whatnot, which is nice, I guess. Then it says, your ideas for the third installment are perfectly in line with the escalating absurdity and historical parallels. Here are some additional ideas to enhance the script. So, as I said, I give it some ideas I already have, and I asked AI for its own ideas, and I specifically mentioned an area where I thought there was some key jokes lacking, which was the first act. Poppy suggested Jabba the Hutt becomes Jabba the Oligarch. Then the best part is suggested, which was the Rancor becoming being liberated, I should say, and becoming the first non-human member of the Politburo. That was not how this idea took its final form, but it did inspire the final idea. I refined it, as you saw in the final video. If you watched it, the Rancor was persuaded that it was being exploited by Jabba, and then it threw Jabba in the Sarlacc pit. This was another idea by Poppy. C3KGB becoming Luke's propaganda minister. Chewbacca's fate. Yeah, I don't think I did that. Didn't do this either. So, this is the thing, right? You don't just accept what it comes up with. You sort of pick and choose. Got some historical parallels it's suggested here. You can feel free to stop and read these if you want. I'm just showing you the process, the broad strokes. So yeah, after that, I refined some ideas. I picked some parts that I didn't like and just sort of said don't include this. Then I had another idea that I came up with and added here, which was Obi-Wan Kenobi's ghost turning up at the end. Now, I don't actually think this was the script that ended up being used, this one. I think I stopped it after this. Yes, I did. So I forgot to mention something, which is, when I'm doing these videos, I always, at the moment at least, rely heavily on just telling the whole story through like one narrator. So I have to explain that, and I often forget to explain it wherever I'm using ChatGPT or Poppy. That the voice needs to be mostly, told by the narrator. So the cool thing about Poppy is I could actually make a text box like I've just done here and add that as an instruction, like that. I hope you can see I'm just scratching the surface with what this tool can actually do. So after I told it that, and I clarified it. We started the scripting process again, and here we go. Now this is the actual script that was used, and it didn't do the whole thing, it just gave me like a taste to sort of assess. And then it says here, should I continue? And then I said, yeah, please proceed. And yep, that's also the rest of the script. Sometimes I like to do it in batches like this because it just makes things easier to organise. And yeah, just in batches like this, I kept doing it until I had the full script. And there you go. I didn't use that line at the end there, but that is a class setup for Force Awakens parody. The Force redistributes. I love that. So even after getting the main script though, that was the main script that was used, I still needed some extra things, which became apparent quite quickly, and that was I needed a scene depicting the fight between Vader, Luke and Palpatine. Only 2 paragraphs was all I needed. I suggested they can try to lure him to the dark side of economics. Luke uses his newfound powers taught by Stalin to destroy them both. And then I also mentioned an earlier scene that was missing, which was just some quick detail of the Empire's pursuits early on, just for some scene setting. Poppy just quickly whipped them up for me, and I slotted them in. So very much I want to emphasise that the scripting process was very hands-on, even though AI is doing the legwork. Yes, it's crazy that I could get all this written in like a matter of seconds, but without crucial context that I provided and my own taste dictating the way it ends up, it wouldn't come out even anywhere near as good as it actually does. If I just let the AI do all the work, I'd have a boring script with no personality. My view is you should act like a creative director, steering the ship, and the AI is sort of like just fast tracking your ideas and bring them to life quicker. I'll show you what the next stage of the process is. This was ideation and scripting, so what I'd do at this point is I'd tick those off. Next stage is voiceover generation, but what I use is 11 Labs. And specifically, rather than using the text-to-speech, I go to 11 Labs Studio here. I would grab my script, and I'll just show you a brief snippet because I've already made this obviously. Paste it here, and then I select the voice that I use often for these types of videos, which is this 50s narrator here, and I just check the settings. So these are the settings that I use for the voice in 11 Labs. I keep the similarity reasonably high, stability about 60, and I slowed the speed I think a little bit recently, and the style exaggeration is just at 3%, and I keep this on. And then I just do a quick preview to hear what it sounds like.
Comrade Ivan Solo remained frozen in carbonite, displayed in the palace of Jabba the Oligarch, a legitimate businessman with absolutely no ties to organized crime, according to his lawyers.
And that's just a quick preview of what it sounds like. And yeah, I do that for the whole script, export, then download. Once you've got the VO, I drag it into CapCut. So that's a pretty easy stage. Voiceover generation, pretty straightforward. The next part of the process can be tricky. So the original script for this, the original voiceover, was about 12 minutes long, and I know from experience that I typically need to do cuts about every 3 seconds or so. That makes it dead easy to do a calculation for how many scenes I need to make, images I need to make for my storyboard. So 10 minutes, 12 minutes in this case, is 12 times 60, that's 60 seconds. 720 seconds is the final length, and then I just divide that by 3, which tells me I need about 240, I'm going to round this up to 250 images for this project. And there is my storyboard. This was already made, obviously, and it goes on. I think I did 200 in the end, which was more than enough, as it turned out. So I'm just going to show you how I actually make this. This was done with ChatGPT, and the way I would do it is I'd do this, take this script here, go to ChatGPT, and say the following. Here is a script I need storyboarding. I have calculated I need 250 images to accompany it in chronological order, following the story beat by beat. Please do the storyboard in batches. Then I've just pasted the entire script here, and then it begins doing it. In this case, it's doing it in batches of 50. So it is good to have a storyboard. It makes things so much easier because you remove a lot of guesswork. If you don't have any sense of direction like this, you're going to be sort of like, you won't know where to start. So once I've got my storyboard, it is time for the first real fun part, which is creating the visuals in Midjourney. So this is the vast majority of the images that I made for the project. I won't go through every single one. So if we look at my actual storyboard, So the first storyboard prompt was wide establishing shot of Jabba the Hutt's palace, reimagined as a decadent capitalist oligarch's mansion, neon McDonald's signs and Coca-Cola signs glowing on the walls, desert night sky. Okay, so that was the storyboard prompt, and I think I did actually just try and paste that directly in to start with to see what came up. I actually used a Tarkovsky style reference as well, hence the depressing sort of like aesthetic here. It didn't really work at all. I don't know what's going on there, it's bizarre. Kind of would be cool in the right project, but not for this. So I got rid of that, I tried it again, and it still wasn't giving me the result I want. Now this is when I started getting the results I want. So I used a style reference that I found on the internet. That's a really tiny version of it, but it's an actual image of Jabba's palace from the show, from the movie I should say, and that was dragged up here into Midjourney's style reference feature. Using that as a guide, I simplified the prompt a little bit, you can read it there, and then generate it again. And then just did that a few times, and yeah, that was the first one. Now let's have a look what else I did. What did Luke Skywalker approaching the palace gates? That would be this here. For this I used, and it's really small, but you can see that image there, that's actually a still of Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. And that was entered up here into the Omni reference feature on Midjourney using 500 for the Omni strength, which is directly halfway. Just added a bit to the prompt, like cinematic realism at the end here. These were some of the early results. I didn't use them all. This one did get used in the final video. Just some great shots. That got used in the final video. Don't know what's going on with that guy's face or that one's there, but who cares? I think you get the idea. I just repeat this process again and again and again. Going through here, using character references when I have to. Here's an image of Jedi Master Stalin that I tried to create, and it came out as a Lego man for some reason. Not a clue why. This is giving me ideas though, looking at this, to be honest. So creating Stalin here, what I did is I used an actual image of Joseph Stalin as a reference, again up in the Omni reference feature here, but I did notice later on down the line when I tried to create more images using Joseph Stalin's face, suddenly the moderator was all over it, the AI moderator on Midjourney that is, and it was like, nope, you're not doing that anymore. Here's Luke doing his training on Stalingrad. These are some of my favourite images to create as well, the Death Star with just absurd modern capitalist branding on, like. And if you want to see the secret behind getting those ridiculous images, it's literally just describe what you want and then just add a bit of like stylistic description at the end. So I literally just said wide shot of the Death Star, huge Coca-Cola and McDonald's billboards glowing on the surface, voila. Got some more options there. I quite liked that one, and I wish I'd used it actually in the final thing, but you can't use them all. These stormtroopers, people have commented on how much they love this design. The idea is was to do like Imperial Russian styled stormtroopers, and of course they later got rebranded into communist stormtroopers. Now if you're wondering how I made these, I could have made them with Midjourney alone, but I didn't. A little trick I like to use. So I like making assets that I can use as references in ChatGPT sometimes. In this case, that's precisely what I did for these stormtroopers with the communist look. I told it what I wanted, it laid it all out in a prompt, and then it made the image. ChatGPT's image generator is amazing, like absolutely amazing at doing super specific images. That's how I did it. I made the reference image first of this stormtrooper using ChatGPT, then I added it as a reference in the Omni reference feature on Midjourney. So once you've got your visuals, the next obvious step is to download them all, sift through them, and just pick your favourite images. That's a quick process usually. Okay, so now we're on to the animation stage. So when it comes to animations, for a long time I used Runway almost exclusively. However, Hailuo kindly gifted me some credits to test out their new 2.0 video generator recently, and this has been a bit of a game changer, I must say. For this particular project, I use Runway and Hailuo, and I'll show you the key differences as we get into it. With Runway, yeah, you just drag your images in here, you describe what you want, and you can see what I described here. I do find just keeping things dead simple and to the point works very well. So establishing shot, dolly in. There you go. Precisely what we asked for. And let's have a look at the next one. Again, the same thing, establishing shot, dolly in. I didn't even use this shot. Easy. The woman walks toward the camera, dolly out. Easy peasy. Man stares ominously, slow close zoom in. You know, it really doesn't have to be complicated. It's a very straightforward process. People get a bit too caught up in, you know, prompting like specifics sometimes. I really do think there's no need to make it harder than it needs to be. Space station slowly spinning in space. Dolly in. Establishing shot of a planet. Dolly in. Yep. Aerial flyby. Establishing shot. Icy and stormy tundra. So with that one I just sort of like specified some weather conditions I want to see. And it delivered. I'll just show you a few more. Mischievous villainous man grinning slyly in icy cave. Good enough for me. Just goes on and on and on. Now the other thing that I do like about Runway is it has this inbuilt upscaler feature. So after you've made all your images you can just easily upscale them all to 4K. This is a perfect one to stop on here, because this is where we're going to turn to Hailuo. This shot and many other shots in the Star Wars video have been praised for the visual quality, and I would agree that the channel recently got a big upgrade visually, and that is all down to Hailuo here. So I was pretty ignorant of just how good Hailuo was until I got gifted these free credits, and yeah, I got to test them out and I'm just blown away at how good it is. Runway, I love it, but it just cannot do what Hailuo can do. These are not videos I'd be able to get with Runway. I just don't think I could. I didn't actually use this one because it was a bit iffy, like I just wanted Boba Fett running and then taking off in his jetpack, but he kind of just like did this weird thing here and then boom. I'm just going to take you through some of the images here. This one did get used, I think. This one got used. This is a perfect example of using the start and end frame feature on Hailuo. So I got R2-D2 and I said I wanted to be firing a flamethrower at terrified fleeing Jawas. I put fleet in by accident and they get engulfed by the flames. So this just takes two images, you add them together and then it stitches them together in video form. And this is the end result. Jabba being thrown into the Sarlacc pit by the angry Rancor. That doesn't look anything like Jabba, but who cares? You get the gist. There is no way I could have made that image in Runway. No way I could have made that video. Zero chance. You got this. Starts a bit weird, but then recovers. One of our TIE fighter shots. This was another project that's coming out soon. Don't know why it's just randomly in between here. Just anything that's got a lot of motion going on. Stuff like this, like space battles, or this one here for instance. Now this is a great video. So this was a 10-second clip. So yeah, this is one of the video clips here that just demonstrates the massive level up that Hailuo is visually for my channel. I've got this action scene here, shootout in the forest, got the rebels returning fire here, enemies running behind them for some reason. Now, this was a shot that didn't end up being used, came out a bit weird. Got this crazy shot of Palpatine. Oh my god. This obviously didn't get used. It also used the start frame, end frame thing. That was actually a mistake, I didn't mean to do this shot. It's quite horrific though. Here's another shot from Hailuo, and another amazing one. Here's another start and end frame one where the Millennium Falcon takes off. Starts a bit clunky. So just to hit it home, there was a shot of Luke running through like a battlefield. I did the image in both Runway's Gen 4 standard mode, so like the most consistent model, and Hailuo's as well. So this was what Runway did, which, yeah, it's just not sure what's going on down here. and it just introduces a bunch of weird characters that you didn't ask for at all. I used the same prompt, I think, between the two generators, which might not be the fairest test because they have their own like quirks and ways of interpreting prompts, but this was the result in Hailuo. And the results speak for themselves as far as I'm concerned. This is miles better. Right, so that's some insights into the animation part of the process. This is the part where it all really starts to come to life. Once all my images are animated, I'll download them, add them to a folder, and then we're on to music selection. I use Epidemic Sound to find my tracks most of the time, but there are other options like Sooner. You know, you could do background music, you could do lyrical music. Yeah, there are just so many options these days. I like to use Epidemic Sound because human-made music is still better than AI music as far as I'm concerned. I'm speaking as a musician as well, so maybe I'm slightly biased, but I have never heard any AI music that has made me fear for the future of human musicians. Not yet anyway. That's something else I do, by the way. I'm a musician / producer. Anyway, I've already got my Epidemic soundtracks all laid out in the project. These are ones that I've used quite often on the channel. I'll just show you a little bit of what they sound like with the voiceover muted. Sorry, I'm just laughing at this whole sequence. So just to demonstrate how much of a difference music choice makes, I'm just going to drag this really dark track in and play this whole sequence again. I have used that track before, only once on the Soviet Lord of the Rings. That was probably the darkest video of the channel, by the way, and that track played a big role in making that video as dark as it was. Music selection is huge. That's why I have a section dedicated to it, because it really is important. So a quick word about editing. I know that roughly I want about 3 seconds each clip, or at least to allow myself the option of cutting every 3 seconds. What I also like to do is kind of time my cuts at either the beginning of syllables or the start of phrases or sentences, which you can see here. If you see these peaks in the audio, that's precisely what I'm doing with my cuts. There's one. By doing that, I just find you get a video that flows better. I don't really think there's much more to talk about. CapCut is a great editor, great editing software. It's completely free. As you can see, it looks maybe a bit overwhelming when you see it like this, zoomed out. But all it is one set of images which are animated, then a voiceover, then various audio tracks like music, and then I've just got my branding in the bottom right there, and then just my outro CTA. What else is there to talk about? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think this is just a nice peek behind the scenes of how I make these videos. I will say that scripting is probably one of the most important parts, because without a good script, the video kind of falls flat. And yeah, that's been it for this video. If people are interested in seeing more behind the scenes content, if this goes down well, I'm happy to do more. I probably will do more on Patreon as well, if that is of interest. If you want to join me on Patreon, by the way, please feel free to do so. My prices are the lowest they're ever going to be at the moment, because I will be putting them up soon. Existing members, your prices won't change at all, and what you can get is behind the scenes content, early access, stuff like that. That's all for this one, guys. I've got 2 videos coming out this week. You can look forward to a new video dropping this Thursday, and then on Saturday too. See you soon. Cheers.